The air here does not just feel cold, it feels heavy, a physical weight that presses against your chest with every breath you take. At 40 degrees below zero, the moisture in your exhaled breath freezes instantly, coating your eyelashes in a fine layer of frost and turning your scarf into a mask of ice. You can hear the silence. It is a ringing, hollow sound that stretches across the tundra for hundreds of miles in every direction. There is no help coming. There is no room for error. In the Arctic, the environment does not care if you live or die. It is entirely indifferent to your presence. And tonight, as the sun dips below the horizon for the last time in weeks, the only thing standing between you and the crushing grip of hypothermia is what you can do with your own two hands. The first rule of the North is simple. If you sweat, you die. It sounds dramatic, but in this environment, it is the absolute truth. As I move across the frozen crust of the snow, I have to monitor my pace with obsessive care. If I move too fast, my body temperature rises and moisture begins to accumulate against my skin. Once that moisture cools, it will pull the heat from my core 25 times faster than dry air. I can feel the heat radiating from my neck, and I immediately pause, loosening the drawstring of my parka to let the excess warmth escape. Every movement is a calculation. Every step is a trade-off between progress and the preservation of energy. The sun is a pale white disk hanging just above the jagged line of the horizon. It offers light but no warmth. I have less than an hour of usable twilight left to establish a footprint in this wilderness. I scan the landscape for a specific type of snow. I'm looking for a drift that has been packed hard by the relentless wind, something dense enough to support its own weight, but soft enough to be shaped. This is the foundation of survival. Without a barrier between myself and the wind, the night will be a short, terminal experience. The wind chill out here can drop the effective temperature to 60 below in a matter of minutes, a level of cold that can freeze exposed flesh in seconds. I find a deep drift on the leeward side of a rocky outcropping. The rocks provide a natural windbreak, but they also act as a heat sink, drawing warmth away from anything they touch. I have to be careful. I begin to carve out the entrance to a snow trench. My movements are slow and rhythmic. I use a small collapsible shovel, the sound of metal biting into the frozen crystals echoing like a heartbeat. The snow here is dry, like granulated sugar. It lacks the moisture needed for traditional snowballs, so I have to rely on the weight of the snow itself to compress and bond. This is called sintering. As I disturb the snow and pile it up, the individual crystals break and then refreeze together, creating a structure that is surprisingly strong. The physical exertion is dangerous. I can feel my heart rate climbing, the blood pumping hard in my ears. I stop. I wait. I let my heart rate settle before continuing. In the Arctic, the greatest enemy is often your own impatience. You want to rush, you want to get out of the wind, but rushing leads to mistakes. A broken tool or a torn glove can be a death sentence. I dig deeper, creating a narrow trench about 7 feet long and 3 feet wide. This will be my coffin for the night or my sanctuary. It all depends on the roof. I gather several sturdy willow branches that have managed to survive in the lee of the rocks. They are brittle and grey, stripped of their bark by the abrasive wind-blown ice. I lay them across the top of the trench, spacing them evenly. Over these I place a lightweight emergency tarp, weighting the edges with heavy chunks of frozen crust. Finally, I begin to shovel a thick layer of loose snow over the top. This snow is my insulation. It is composed of trapped air, and air is the best insulator in nature. A foot of snow can maintain a temperature of 32 degrees Fahrenheit inside the shelter, even if it is 40 below outside. That 40-degree difference is the margin of survival. As the last of the light fades, the world turns a deep, bruised purple. The shadows stretch out like long, dark fingers across the white expanse. I crawl into the trench, dragging my pack in behind me. The space is cramped, barely large enough to turn over, but the immediate cessation of the wind is a profound relief. The silence inside the snow is different. It is heavy and muffled, as if the world has been wrapped in cotton. But the work is far from over. I cannot simply lie down and sleep. To sleep now without a source of internal heat would be to never wake up. I need fire. In the high Arctic, fuel is more precious than gold. I have spent the last hour of light gathering small twigs and the papery bark of stunted birch trees that cling to the sheltered side of the ridges. Birch bark is a miracle of nature. It contains betulin, an oil that allows it to burn even when it is damp or frozen. I clear a small patch of ground at the entrance of my trench, making sure I'm not directly on the snow. I lay down a platform of thicker sticks to keep the fire off the ice. If the fire touches the snow, it will melt, create a puddle, and extinguish itself. My hands are starting to lose their dexterity. The fine motor skills are the first to go as the body shunts blood away from the extremities to protect the vital organs. I struggle to strike my ferrocerium rod. The sparks are bright, brief flashes of orange in the gloom. 1, 2, 3 strikes, nothing. Strikes. The cold has made the bark brittle. I shave a small pile of wood dust onto the bark and try again. This time a spark catches. A tiny blue flame licks at the edge of the birch bark. I hold my breath, shielding the fragile life with my cupped hands. It grows, turning from blue to a vibrant, hungry orange. I feed it tiny slivers of wood, one by one, until the heat begins to radiate against my face. The fire is small, no larger than a dinner plate, but it is a psychological victory as much as a physical one. It provides a focal point in the vast, empty dark. I place a small metal tin filled with snow on the edge of the embers. Melting snow for water is a constant chore. You cannot eat snow directly. The energy your body would expend to melt it inside your stomach would lead to a net loss of heat and accelerate dehydration. It takes a massive amount of snow to produce a small amount of water. As the snow melts, it shrinks, and I have to keep topping it up. The water tastes of smoke and minerals, but it is warm, and as it slides down my throat, I can feel the heat spreading through my core. Dinner is a high-fat, high-calorie ration. In the cold, your metabolism moves into overdrive. You can burn 6,000 calories a day just trying to stay warm. I eat slowly, forcing myself to chew thoroughly. Every calorie is fuel for the furnace. I watch the flames, conscious of my limited wood supply. I have enough for perhaps 3 hours of burning. I must use it wisely. I use the heat to dry my socks and the liners of my boots. Even the slight moisture from my feet during the day has dampened them. If I leave them damp, they will freeze into solid blocks of ice by morning. Outside, the wind has picked up. I can hear it howling over the top of my trench, a low, guttural moan that sounds like a living thing. It tosses spindrift against the tarp, a sound like sand hitting a window. The temperature is dropping further now. I can feel the cold creeping through the walls of the snow, a slow, relentless pressure. I check my thermometer. It has bottomed out. The mercury is no longer moving. The long night begins. This is the hardest part of Arctic survival, the waiting. Time becomes elastic. Minutes feel like hours. I sit in the dark, my back against my pack, wrapped in my sleeping bag. I am not truly sleeping. I am drifting in a state of semi-consciousness, constantly monitoring my body for the telltale signs of shivering. Shivering is the body's last-ditch effort to generate heat through friction. If I start to shiver uncontrollably, I am losing the battle. I think about the biology of the animals that call this place home. The Arctic fox with its thick, hollow-haired fur that traps air just like my snow shelter. The muskox with its undercoat of kiviot, 8 times warmer than sheep's wool. They are built for this. I am an intruder, a tropical creature surviving only through the application of logic and stolen materials. I listen to the sounds of the ice. Far off in the distance I hear a sharp crack, like a rifle shot. It is the sound of the permafrost splitting under the extreme thermal tension. They call them ice quakes. It is a reminder that the very ground beneath me is moving and changing under the influence of the cold. Every hour I force myself to move. I wiggle my toes, I clench and unclench my fists. I perform small isometric exercises to keep the blood flowing. I cannot afford to let my circulation stagnate. I check the entrance to my shelter. I have left a small vent hole to prevent the buildup of carbon monoxide from my stove and to ensure a fresh supply of oxygen. The hole has started to frost over from the moisture of my breath. I clear it with a stick, watching the crystals fall like diamond dust. The darkness is absolute. There is no moon tonight, only the stars. They are brighter than I have ever seen them, hard points of light that don't seem to twinkle so much as vibrate. And then the sky begins to change. A faint greenish glow appears on the horizon, shimmering like a curtain in a breeze. The aurora borealis. It grows in intensity, ribbons of emerald and violet dancing across the zenith. In many cultures, these lights were seen as the spirits of the dead or the fires of the gods. Standing here, in the middle of this frozen void, it is easy to understand why. The lights are silent, but they feel loud. They pulse with a rhythmic energy that makes the hair on my neck stand up. It is a beautiful, terrifying display of the Earth's magnetic field colliding with solar particles. It is a reminder of how small we are. As the aurora fades, the cold reaches its zenith. This is the dead of night, the hours between 3 and 5 in the morning, when the human body's internal temperature is at its lowest. I feel a wave of exhaustion wash over me, a heavy, seductive pull toward deep sleep. I have to fight it. This is the danger zone. I reach for my last bit of chocolate, the sugar hitting my bloodstream and providing a small spark of energy. I focus on my breathing, in through the nose, out through the mouth. I try to visualize the heat trapped in my lungs, imagining it circulating to my fingertips. I hear a sound outside. It is not the wind. It is a heavy, rhythmic crunching of snow. My heart rate spikes. Out here, there are few things that move in the night. A wolf, perhaps, or a polar bear if I were closer to the coast. I remain perfectly still, holding my breath. The sound stops. I can hear the creature breathing, a deep, huffing sound. It is investigating the mound of snow that is my home. I reach for my knife, not because it would be much use against a bear, but because the weight of it in my hand provides a sliver of comfort. The silence stretches out, tense and thick. After what feels like an eternity, the crunching resumes, moving away into the darkness. Whatever it was, it decided I wasn't worth the effort. The first hint of dawn is not light, but a change in the texture of the darkness. The deep black turns to a charcoal grey. My body is aching. Every joint feels stiff, as if the cold has seeped into the marrow of my bones. I begin the process of waking up my systems. I start with my feet, rotating the ankles, then the knees. I rub my arms vigorously. I can see my breath in the dim light, a thick cloud that hangs in the air of the trench. I crawl out of the shelter. The world outside is a masterpiece of white and blue. The wind has died down, leaving the tundra perfectly still. The horizon is glowing with a pale, golden light that promises the return of the sun. I stand up, and for a moment, the sheer scale of the wilderness overwhelms me. It is a desert of ice, beautiful and lethal in equal measure. I have survived the night, but the Arctic doesn't give out trophies. Survival is a continuous process, not a destination. I begin to pack my gear. My movements are more fluid now as the morning light brings a psychological boost. I look back at my snow trench. In a few hours the wind will fill it back in, erasing any sign that I was ever here. That is the way of the north. It swallows everything. I check my compass, orienting myself for the day's trek. I need to find a source of flowing water or a more permanent wood supply. The calories I burned last night need to be replaced. The struggle for survival is a cycle of resource management. You take from the environment what you need, and in return, the environment takes your energy, your warmth, and your focus. It is a fair trade, but the house always has the advantage. As I begin to walk, the snow crunching under my boots, I feel a profound sense of clarity. In the wilderness, there are no distractions. There are no emails, no bills, no trivial anxieties. There is only the next breath, the next step, and the constant underlying hum of the cold. I pass a small stand of black spruce, their branches bowed low under the weight of the snow. They look like frozen ghosts. I stop to gather a handful of needles to steep for tea later. They are rich in vitamin C, a vital nutrient in a place where fresh produce is non-existent. It is these small details, the birch bark, the snow density, the spruce needles, that determine the outcome of a survival situation. Knowledge is the most important tool in your kit. It weighs nothing, but it carries the most value. The sun finally clears the horizon, a blindingly bright orb that reflects off the snow with such intensity that I have to squint. Snow blindness is a real threat here. The ultraviolet rays bounce off the white surface and can literally burn your retinas. I pull my polarized goggles over my eyes, the world turning a soft amber tint. The warmth of the sun is still negligible, but the light is a lifeline. It guides the way forward. I think about the people who lived here for thousands of years without the benefit of modern fabrics or metal tools. Their resilience is staggering. They understood the language of the ice. They knew how to read the clouds to predict a storm days in advance. They knew that the Arctic isn't something to be conquered, but something to be negotiated with. You don't beat the cold, you learn to live within its rules. My journey continues. The landscape is deceptive. What looks like a flat plain can be a labyrinth of pressure ridges and hidden crevasses. I test the ground ahead of me with a walking stick, feeling for the solid resistance of ice beneath the powder. My goal is a distant ridge where the wind has scoured the snow away, potentially revealing more fuel or even signs of animal activity. Where there are animals, there is a chance for food. As the day progresses, the temperature rises slightly, perhaps to 20 below. It feels almost balmy compared to the night. I strip off my outer parka to prevent overheating, tying it to the top of my pack. This is the constant dance of the Arctic survivor, layering up and layering down, always trying to maintain that perfect, delicate balance of core temperature. I find a small frozen stream. I can hear the water moving deep beneath the ice, a muffled gurgling sound. I use my shovel to break through a thin patch. The water is crystal clear and so cold it makes my teeth ache, but it is life. I fill my bottles, adding a few drops of purification just to be safe, though out here, the water is likely the purest on Earth. I take a moment to look back at the path I've taken. My tracks are a straight line cutting through the pristine white. They are the only mark of humanity in 1,000 square miles. It is a lonely feeling, but also an empowering one. Out here, you are responsible for yourself in a way that society rarely requires. Every success is yours and every failure is yours. There is a brutal honesty to it. The wind begins to pick up again, a low hiss across the snow. A new weather system is moving in from the north. I can see the clouds thickening, turning a heavy, leaden grey. The cycle is beginning again. I have a few hours of light left to find my next campsite, to gather my next pile of wood, and to prepare for another night in the deep freeze. The Arctic is a harsh teacher, but the lessons it provides are fundamental. It teaches you the value of a single spark. It teaches you the importance of patience. It teaches you that life is a fragile, precious flame that must be tended with constant care. As I turn my face into the wind and continue my trek, I am not thinking about the hardships. I am thinking about the next fire, the next warm drink, and the simple, profound triumph of being alive. The wilderness does not offer comfort, but it offers something better: perspective. In the face of the infinite cold, you realize what truly matters. You realize that you are stronger than you thought, and that the human spirit, much like the birch bark, can find a way to burn even in the most inhospitable conditions. The night is coming, but I am ready for it. I have the knowledge, I have the tools, and I have the will to see the sun rise once more. This is Arctic survival. It is raw, it is cold, and it is the ultimate test of what it means to be human.
If you liked this video, please hit the like and subscribe button for more.